I am 62 years old. Last night I went to bed at the same time I have for the past 3 years, did the same thing I always do before I close my eyes, and this morning I woke up the way men half my age used to wake up. My wife noticed. I noticed. Nobody made a big deal out of it because it isn't a big deal anymore. It's just how mornings are now. That's the part nobody tells you, that it can become ordinary again. Not ordinary the way something is ordinary when you lower your expectations. Ordinary the way it is when it returns to what it was supposed to be, and stays there. 3 years now, without interruption, without medication, without a prescription. Just a habit I built into 1 hour of the night. I am not a man who believes in easy answers. I spent 30 years as a tradesman. If something wasn't functioning, you found the reason and fixed it properly, or you didn't fix it at all. That mentality served me well for a long time. It did not serve me when the thing that stopped functioning was my own body. I found what I'm going to share with you without any help from the medical system. The slow way. Through a conversation I almost didn't have. If you're watching this and nights have gotten quiet in a way you didn't choose. If you know what it feels like to lie next to someone you love and feel like a different man, then stay with me until the end. What changed everything is here. There was a specific night when I understood something had shifted. I had gone to bed early, tired in a way that had nothing to do with the day. My wife was still reading, the light on her side of the bed, and I lay in the half-dark with something heavy in my chest. Not sadness, the weight of knowing. Knowing that the man I was when we first shared a bed and the man lying there now were not the same. I had started noticing things over the previous 2 years, waking up flat, without the kind of readiness mornings used to bring automatically. Going to bed in a body that felt detached from desire, like a machine that had been switched off at the source. The energy was still there, more or less. The will was there, but the body had stopped listening the way it once had. I went to a doctor. He ran tests, told me everything was within normal range, and offered a prescription I never filled. When I pushed back, he looked at me with the practiced patience of someone who has had this conversation before. He said decline was expected at my age. I didn't tell my wife about the appointment. I adapted instead. You learn to manage expectations, your own first, then silently the ones between you. The distance that opens isn't dramatic. A little less contact, a little more turning away at night. Nothing that could be pointed to. Just the gradual erosion of something that had always been there. There was a man I knew slightly from a group of older men in my neighborhood, the kind of group that forms around nothing in particular, a bench outside a shop, a few minutes in the morning. He was older than me by about 6 or 7 years. I noticed him because he didn't look like someone his age was supposed to look. Not dramatically, just a certain presence. When he walked with his wife, which he did most mornings, there was something between them that I had stopped seeing in myself. I didn't ask him anything for a long time. One morning, it was just the two of us, and he said offhand that he'd learned more about his own body in the past 3 years than in all the decades before. He said it without drama. I asked him what he meant. He told me about sleep, not as advice, the way someone recounts what happened to them. He said the body does most of its hormonal repair in the first few hours of deep sleep, and that if you enter sleep already depleted, temperature up, nervous system still going, stomach processing something, that repair window closes. The body gets behind, and stays behind. He said the habit he'd changed was a small thing he did every night before bed, nothing complicated, and it had mattered more than anything the doctors had offered him. I was not immediately convinced. I was a practical man. Built my life on the principle that if something can't be fixed with the right tool, it probably can't be fixed. I had watched other men fall for easy answers and judged them quietly for it. The idea that a capsule could reach a place that medicine had not? I was contemptuous of the whole category. Not afraid of disappointment. Contemptuous. But something in the way he said it stayed with me. Not what he said, how he said it, without any investment in whether I believed him or not. A few days later, I asked him to say more. He told me about something he'd started using alongside the habit. He described two things. One was saw palmetto. He called it a protective plant, said it preserves the testosterone the body would otherwise quietly discard by converting it into something else, a process most men don't know is happening. The second was horny goatweed, a plant with a long history and a simple mechanism. It helps blood go where it needs to go, and at the right moment it goes there better. He mentioned it the way you'd mention what you had for breakfast. He said the link to what he found was in the description of a video someone had sent him, that it was there for anyone who wanted to look. I took a look. I tried it. About 4 or 5 weeks in, something shifted. It started with sleep. The depth of it. I had been waking 2 or 3 times a night for as long as I could remember. A light, unrestful sleep that accumulated into fatigue. That started to ease. The nights became quieter. Then, slowly, the mornings started to feel different. The body beginning to be present again in a way it had stopped being. The morning I described at the start had happened enough times by then that I wasn't surprised by it anymore. Just quietly grateful in the way you can only be when you've stopped expecting something back. If any of that matches something you've been carrying, the link he mentioned is in the description. It's there if you want to look at it. But that was only the beginning of what I learned. Let me tell you what else changed, because the habit itself is what made the foundation. What I found, and what took me the longest to accept, is that sleep is not a passive state. There is a period in the first few hours of deep sleep, what researchers call slow-wave sleep, during which the body releases most of its hormonal production and signals the system to rebuild what the day depleted. Testosterone follows this window directly. A man who enters sleep already running hot, core temperature up, nervous system still reactive, stomach processing a late meal, misses that window without knowing it. Over years, the deficit compounds. I had been missing it almost every night. The first thing I changed was meal timing. The body's core temperature rises during digestion, and deep sleep requires the core temperature to drop. A warm body doesn't enter slow-wave sleep efficiently. A study from the journal Sleep Medicine found that men who ate within 2 hours of bedtime spent significantly less time in slow-wave sleep than those with a 4-hour gap, regardless of what they ate. The issue is not what you eat, it's when. Move the meal, not just the portion. The instruction: eat your last real meal before 7 in the evening. Everything after that is water. If what I'm sharing here is reaching you, do me a favor and give this video a like, and subscribe if you want to follow what comes next. I share this because I know what it cost me to carry it alone. The more of you who find it, the more men who won't have to wait as long as I did. The second thing I changed was the hour before sleep. Screens before bed don't just stimulate the eyes. The light suppresses melatonin, which is not only a sleep hormone, but the signal that starts the body's entire nighttime repair sequence. Harvard researchers found that 2 hours of screen exposure suppressed melatonin production by roughly 22%. 22% less of the signal that tells the body it's time to rebuild. I stopped screens after 9. I replaced it with nothing. Just quiet. That's enough. The mistake is trying to fill the hour with something equally stimulating. It is the preparation for a biological event, not a productivity window. The third change was a 20-minute slow walk in the evening, after the meal, before the hour of quiet. Not exercise. Walking. Chronic low-level tension, the kind that accumulates across years without ever feeling dramatic, keeps a hormone called cortisol elevated at night. Cortisol and testosterone operate in direct opposition. When one stays high, the other stays low. Slow walking, at the pace you'd walk with someone you don't need to talk to, begins the cortisol drawdown. Research published in Psychoneuroendocrinology found that this reduced measurable cortisol within a single session. Most men get this wrong by making it a workout. 20 minutes. Slow. Nothing in your ears. The fourth thing was temperature. The body needs its core temperature to drop in the first hour of sleep to complete the transition into slow-wave sleep. If the room is too warm, the body tries and partially fails every night. Research from the University of South Australia found that rooms warmer than 19 degrees Celsius meaningfully shortened slow-wave sleep time. Set the room between 16 and 19 degrees. If you can't control the temperature, sleep with lighter bedding. A warmer bed feels more comfortable when you first lie down. It shortens the sleep that actually matters. If you have stayed through this whole video, leave me something in the comments. Tell me your age, and tell me one thing about how you sleep now that you think might be working against you. Not a complaint, just one specific thing. I read them, and it helps me understand what to share next. I am 62 years old. I have been married for nearly 30 years. Most of the men I know my age have accepted a version of themselves they didn't choose. Some of them don't even realize they accepted it. It just became normal so gradually that the moment of acceptance passed without ceremony. I almost became that man. I am not that man now. The central thing I want to leave you with is simple. What happens at night is not separate from what happens in bed. They are the same system. The body that rebuilds itself properly in the dark is the body that shows up fully in the moments that matter. That's not poetry. That's how the biology works. Here is what I want to say plainly. The years ahead of you are not decided. I don't mean that as encouragement. I mean it as a fact. There is a window in which the body still responds, still rebuilds when given the right conditions, still returns toward what it was when approached the right way. That window doesn't close all at once. It narrows. Slowly, steadily, in the way things narrow when they're not attended to. I nearly let mine close all the way without realizing it was open. What staying the same looks like is not a crisis. It looks like another quiet morning, another night where nothing is said, another year of being a slightly smaller version of the man you were, not enough to name it out loud, but enough that both of you feel it. That's the actual cost, not dramatic, just daily. What I shared in this video and what I found in the description are two parts of the same thing. Neither one is the whole answer alone. The habits create the foundation. What I started using helps the body make use of that foundation the way it's supposed to. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Go there, read through what it is, make your own call. The men I know who turned this around, they didn't all find the same path, but they shared one thing. They decided at some point that the version of themselves they'd been living with was not the final version. That decision is the whole thing. Everything else follows from it.